All right, everybody, welcome to episode 1 of the series, Rants, Robbo Opinion series. And this is a simple series that is simply about my opinion on certain subjects and has nothing to do with causing any fuss, causing any ruckus. It's just my take on certain subjects and how I feel about them and what I could potentially offer any insight into. I have my trusty microphone here with me. Don't know how good it's going to be, but I've got it if I need it. The first opinion I would like to probably dive straight into. In recent media, Jake Paul has just done his 6th boxing fight with Anderson the Spider Silva. To offer a little bit of insight to those who don't know much about Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva was a UFC legend, has the record for the most knockouts. He had the record for the most title defenses, which I think he lost. I could be wrong. I can't say that I'm fully aware of knowing, but I can say that he is a dead set, like a full-on MMA legend who has the ability to knock out anyone who came in his path. He was the top dog, and it didn't look like he was ever going to lose, but he did. Back in, I want to get my facts right. I'm just going to grab out the phone here, but I can tell you who did it, and I can tell you what happened. Anderson Silva was on a winning streak that no one ever thought he was going to lose ever. He came into the point where he said in an interview, I don't have that footage. I probably won't be able to find that footage, but he said in an interview that he said, "I'm getting so comfortable in the ring, it's like a second home." Like he's winning and winning and winning and winning and winning. But he versed Chris Weidman. I know he versed Chris Weidman. I'm just trying to find the date. The 6th of July, 2013. In 2013, Anderson Silva was at his peak. He was at his peak best, and he versed Chris Weidman. And Weidman came in, and everyone was like, "Oh, another one." Weidman came in and snapped his leg like a stick of celery. I'll have that link in the description, but I'll tell you what, it was the nastiest break you'll ever see. It is if you don't have a strong stomach, do not watch it. It was nasty, nasty, nasty. But yeah. So Anderson Silva he's an MMA legend, and now he's just turned 45, and he's versed Jake Paul. Jake Paul, who's 27 years old and is not a real fighter. I'm not a fan of the Pauls. I'm really, really not. I don't vouch for anything they do. I really think that they need to rethink a lot of the things they do. They need to be better as people, but, each to their own. If you're a Paul supporter, good on you. If you're not, that's better. You're a better person. But that offers insight on the other end of the spectrum, who Jake Paul is. If you guys have been living under a rock, Jake Paul has been on Vine, has been in the public media for a long time for a series of dumb, stupid, idiotic stunts that have gained media attention and have done a number of different things that have gone semi to fully viral. And his older brother Logan, who is quite outspoken and everyone knows who he is. But Jake came into some hot water recently, just after the fight, actually, where everyone was talking about signing deals, talking about the deals. And the deals that Jake has been putting out have been absolutely fucking shocking. Like Dana White talks about it, and Dana White is the CEO of the UFC. For those you don't know, Dana White is one of the best CEOs in the world. He was ranked by Forbes and whoever else you need to get validation for being a good CEO. Dana White is right up there. He's a fantastic promoter, fantastic operations runner for the UFC, who works very tightly with Joe Rogan. And if you don't know Joe Rogan is, well, I can't really help you. But Dana White had a lot to say on Jake Paul. And he just, he came out and said blatantly that there's a bodyguard who comes to, how they have so when you go to a fight, there's a bodyguard who stands between the two fighters in case they want to break out and have a scrap. Basically, the fighter who was there for Jake Paul, Logan Paul, Jake Paul, Anderson Silva, used to work for Dana, and he was a bit of a crook, and now the whole Jake Paul team is full of crooks through and through. And the whole thing is, every single fight and every single contract, there has been some sort of sketchy clause or remark, and he's been paying them to take a dive. Literally, really seriously paying people to take a dive. Ben Askren being the biggest one. It is too clear to not be a dive. Askren, though, has this history in the UFC. He got knocked out from George Masvidal. It was really, really nasty. I'll make sure I get the date again. But Askren never really fully recovered. He really seriously, he wasn't really a big deal, but he got really seriously messed up by George, who went in there and just gave it to him. It was really, really nasty. It was really. Here we go. Sorry, I know I should have a better setup, but I don't. This is just number one. And for those of you who aren't big martial arts fans, obviously this isn't all I'm going to talk about. But so back in 2019, Masvidal brutally knocked out Askren in record time with a flying knee. He copped it straight to the chin. It's really, really nasty. Once again, I'll leave that link in there if you want to go see it. It's really, 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 really nasty thing. But after that, Askren never really came back, never really came full circle. And then he offered, Jake Paul went up to him and said, "Hey, I'll give you some bunch of cash and get some media attention if I get to knock you out." And he said, "Oh, if it happened once, it happened again." Went in there, got knocked out, and there goes that. Well, the one that upsets me the most is Tyron Woodley. For those of you who don't know who Tyron Woodley was, Tyron Woodley was a really, really well done UFC fighter. Tyron Woodley had, he is really seriously he was really, really good in the cage, So Tyron Woodley fought Jake Paul, and they must have had a bet or something, and Jake Paul bought Tyron Woodley a £9,000, or whatever that translates to Australian dollars, Rolex, which he gifted Jake Paul to the jewelers to check if it had a tracking device inserted into it. So Jake Paul gave him a £9,000 Rolex, and Woodley took it to a jeweler to see if it had a tracking device in it. That's to tell you how sketchy Jake Paul really is. And he made $2 million off the fight with Woodley, which is a big shame. He doesn't deserve the money because he's not. He's putting in. He's investing in his fighting, where he's putting it in the clause, take a dive, whatever the other, and then he's getting big money out of winning the fight, which is terrible because he puts a bad spin on boxing. He puts a bad spin on. Just MMA in general. So, Tyron Woodley, for a little bit of backstory, he was a former UFC welterweight champion who defended his title 4 times. A professional since 2009, Woodley also competed in Strikeforce and was an NCAA Division I collegiate wrestler from Missouri Tigers, becoming a 2-time All-American Big 12 Conference champion in Ferguson, Missouri. That's a very, very, very high accolade list. For example, Strikeforce is a big deal. It's actually one of the underground ones. It's actually very difficult to fight in, and it's not something that I would recommend for anybody. But if you've got the ability, then go for it. NCAA, that's the big thing in America. They have basketball through the football it's like the major thing. Wrestling, if you can get in there and be Division I, it's very difficult to do. Some of the people who are also Division I wrestlers is Brock Lesnar. I'm just going off the top of my head, who are really, really prestigious. I'm not just going for anyone. I'm just going for prestigious. So Brock Lesnar's a big one. I'm just trying to think. John Jones. well, obviously Tyron Woodley, but there is a number of them who are very, very prestigious and very, very well done wrestlers, and John Jones being that one. So Tyron Woodley to take a dive must have been a really, really tough situation, and he must have needed a lot of cash. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's upsetting, But now on the other end of the spectrum, Jake Paul has had 6 fights, 6, and he was going to verse Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury is a bit of an underground fighter, boxer who's really well done over in Britain, and he didn't need the dive money, so he's not going to take that fight. And he had more pride, and Logan's come out today. I don't know if you've seen this, but Logan came out today saying, "Oh, Jake wanted to fight 3 fighters. Everyone shut up, leave my brother alone." It's like, dude, you have no right to talk. You got knocked out by KSI, and now he's friends with him. Now they're best friends, and that's another thing I don't really endorse with fighting. If you're going to fight someone, fight them. I don't want to be a friend. So yeah, it's a lot of controversy around the Paul brothers, but it's a nice segue into where I'm going, which is MMA in general and the world around it. The reason why I bring up Jake Paul today is because Jake Paul released a thing saying that he's going to make a fair fighters union for fighter pay and healthcare. He's trying to say he's going to do a better job than Dana White, which is really, really, really stupid. Really, really stupid thing to say, because Dana White took UFC as we know it today, and you might not be a big fan of it. You may not know full well all about it. You may not have a very good, well-versed knowledge of it, but UFC has exploded, and has become one of the biggest things, one of the biggest net worth sports things in the world. If you go into Google right now and you look up the most highest paid athletes, you'll come up combat sports, and UFC being the big one. And he's gone out and he said he wants fair fighter pay and union and whatever else. And the thing that is upsetting and is actually backfiring on his whole idea is that for fighters to have fair pay and or more money is to pay-per-view. The more money they get from pay-per-view, the more money they're going to make after the fight. When back in the 90s and back in the 80s, when you had guys like Mike Tyson and you had guys like earlier on Muhammad Ali, you had guys who were needle movers, who were really, really superstar status, and everyone wanted to watch, like, oh, watch him, like Conor McGregor, like Nate Diaz, like just the pinnacle of the best would raise up the pay-per-views through the fucking roof. And one of those ones was Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, for example, had so much money after pay-per-views, he could literally spend... There's a story about Mike where he goes into a house in 2008, and he goes there and he parties with Steve-O all night long, buying Coke and buying whatever he desired, cars to whatever he thought, and he didn't even put a dent in his money for that day. So you can really tell you how much he earned in a day, and in 24 hours. It was insane. If you look up the richest athletes and it has the lines, and it's a video and it shows you their net worth over time, Tyson was there for a good solid amount of time, and it was because of the pay-per-views and because of the promotion. And so that's how fighters usually make their pay, is the bigger the promotion, the more pay-per-views, the more money they're going to make. So Jake Paul is going out and he's going, oh, I'll fight Conor McGregor and he'll fight whatever. But the reason why he's doing this, and he's investing in the fights, and he's doing these whole, because if he lost, he's losing a lot of money. He's losing a lot. So he's in the clause, he said, you have to take a dive because I can't lose this investment. And so when you're in that situation, you're not only a coward, but you're gaining wealth of someone else's misfortune. So when you're in that situation, it's really, really tough. But a good way to look at it is a way to look at like Sugar Sean O'Malley. Now, Sugar Sean O'Malley just came to some controversy as well. I'm a big Sugar fan, but I can admit that this was a bit of controversy against Peter Yan. It was down to the decision, and it was 28-29, and O'Malley got the win. And it was pretty controversial because it was a big deal because Jan had some good shots. O'Malley got some mad shots in, and it literally could have gone either way. but people were saying, oh, it's turned into boxing and stuff. But my take on that is if you're punching someone, if you're, putting them to the distance and you're putting the work in, and you're like, if you have the ability in a fight to keep someone's distance from you and to keep your composure and to keep striking them in the same place over and over again, to me, that's more of a win than someone who can throw you around like a bag of grapes. In that, Jan was tossing him around. Like it was the bantamweight bout, and Peter Yan is a dangerous man from Russia, and Sugar Sean is a much more loose, much more creative, off the cuff kind of fighter. Very captivating. He knocks people out very creatively, and he's very much someone who can get pay-per-views. Very much someone who can do that. And now he's going for a championship bout, and it's going to be awesome to watch because I've been a fan since Snoop called his fight. And yeah. Sugar Sean is definitely someone I would recommend if you want to see some highlights for UFC. Type in Sugar Sean O'Malley, and you will see 100% highlights because he's an amazing kickboxer. He has a lot of cardio, a lot of composure, and he's someone who can really stir up the pot. So yeah, no, it's MMA right now is in a bit of hot water because of Jake Paul and all he's saying. And he's going after Dana White, and he's saying he can do a better job. But Dana took the fighting game to a whole new level where now they're getting $1 million contracts. Now they're making all this money. And he's taking it to Abu Dhabi. He's taking it to France. He's taking it all over the place. He's taking it global, and it's insane because it started out as nothing. And fun fact, a little side note, Donald Trump helped in that process. I won't get too much into that. I know people aren't fans of Donald Trump. I just sort of dropped that little nugget in there. But no, Dana has taken it the whole way himself. No, it's just been Dana White, and then obviously joining in with Joe Rogan, Daniel Cormier as a commentator, Michael Bisping as well, and going on from there. The amount of progression UFC has seen in such a small amount of time is just insane. It's just phenomenal. And you get fighters and celebrities and whatever else have you coming out and watching these things, and it's just incredible. But yeah, no. My opinion on MMA and fighting is it's one of the best businesses. If you can be successful at it, you will always be put on a pedestal, and you'll always be taken care of because it is one of the hardest jobs in the world. It is one of the hardest jobs in the world. Ever since we had gladiators back in Rome till now, it has never been easier. It is, it's just so difficult to do. And anyone who's making headwaves in it, congratulations. You guys are slaving, you guys are working hard, and you deserve all the praise you can get because, I could only imagine the amount of hard work that goes into being what they are today. And whether that be boxing, whether that be Muay Thai, whether that be wrestling, whether that be BJJ, whatever your craft is, well done if you're making headway in it because it is not an easy thing to do. But yeah, it is just an incredible business, and has now been in a little bit of hot water from the Paul boys, and they're just two fucking jokers, really. They don't really matter. They don't really count to anything. They don't really amount to much in my eyes. But who am I? I'm just some kid, But yeah, no, it's all full on. For those of you who aren't UFC fans and or MMA fans, whatever your case may be, you're not a fan, you don't really know, you're just a regular, or you're not even. I urge you to look into it because it is a captivating sport. It is something that you can go, oh wow, look at this, oh geez, look at that. I'll leave some links in there that you can go and watch and maybe pique your interest, maybe not. Maybe you can leave some comments like, hey bro, what about this? Hey, what do you think about that? And this series is all about my opinion on things. The first one's always going to be the hardest and or the worst because I'm not really going off of, no one's really giving me, they don't want me to hear my opinion on this. They just want I'm just trying to create content, I'm just really trying to create content and get it out. So yeah, if you leave a message like, hey, can you give me your opinion on the NBA? Can you give me your opinion on the WNBA, or whatever you want to hear. I'm happy to talk about it. I'm happy to share my 2 cents, as it were. But yeah, no, this one has just been about MMA and my thoughts on it, and my thoughts on the Paul boys, the Paul boys, and what they've done for the sport. And yeah, this has been episode 1 of the Opinion series. So make sure you watch it. Make sure you share it around. Make sure you leave me some opinions to give. Make sure you just go, hey man, I want to hear you talk about this. Hey man, I want to hear you talk about this, whether it be weight loss, whether it be staying consistent, whether it be whatever the case may be. Let me have it. I want to hear what you want me to give my 2 cents on. Okay. Till next time, have a dig, earn your salt.